Hey everyone, I'm doing the Playing with Your Emotions tag right now. This was created by Raylene over at Padfoot and Progs 07, and I was tagged by Renee or Nehomas2 and Jeremy over at Maven Books. So I'm gonna do it. I was originally kind of thinking of passing on this one because I thought it was too hard for my minimal amount of brain cells to do, because it's 9 different emotions and you have to pick a book that makes you feel each one of those emotions, and every book really just kind of make me feel entertained or bored, either one of the two. But once I really thought about it, I kind of got some answers, and I was semi-ready, but then I realized I'm not going to be here for a few days, and probably the more time I'm doing other stuff, I will forget. And so that's why I'm doing this now, late at night in my pajamas. It's not that late, it's only just past 10 o'clock, but I have a 5 a.m. shift tomorrow, and I'm going to be leaving almost immediately after that. So I should be going to bed pretty soon so I can get at least a few hours of sleep. But anyway, some of these answers I just kind of picked from going around looking at my bookshelves and choosing stuff that I thought seemed, like a semi-applicable to the various emotions. And there's a few that I had several different books that could go, but whatever. I'm only going to stick with one, and I only went with books that I have here. I know I have some of my older books, like my adult literature and some of my required reading, like non-fiction books, over at my boyfriend's place, but the majority of my books are here. So yeah, I went with what was here. And before I just blabber on and on some more, I'm gonna get started. The first emotion is happy. So what is a book that makes me happy? Well, one of the most recent ones was Pistols for Two by Georgette Heyer. I read this a couple months ago, I think March, actually. And this is just a series of short stories, all Regency romances. And they're just kind of snippets and little vignettes it contains a lot of themes and ideas, concepts that Heyer expands further upon in her novels. But I just thought it was really cute and sweet, and I absolutely love this book. It's actually one of my favorite Heyers of all time. Next one is a book that makes me sad, and I was originally going to say something else, but since I don't have that book here, I went with Villette by Charlotte Bronte. This was Charlotte Bronte's last novel, and it's probably, next to Jane Eyre, it's her most well-known. I don't really like this book that much. I think it's well written, definitely, but I find it really depressing. Like, nothing good ever seems to happen to the heroine in this novel, Lucy Snow. She's like an older, more jaded Jane Eyre, and she doesn't get rewarded for her suffering like Jane does, let's just say. So, this book just, Lucy as a character, she's very cold, and she's not very open as a narrator. And then again, the book too, it's just like nothing good ever seems to happen to her. So I find this book kind of depressing. Next emotion is a heavy one. It's a book that makes me angry, and you might be able to guess it by, oh my god, wrong side, this empty space on my bookshelf right there. It is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Why is that so? Because I love the Harry Potter series. This book makes me so angry because it was a 3-year-long wait in between Goblet of Fire and this one, and my hopes were up so high, and I've been waiting for so long, and this book was just so like Umbridge and all the crap that was going on. I just hated that character. I've never been so angry at a character before, and also a lot of crap happens in this book, like Caps Lock Harry. He is very angry, and lots of unnecessary stuff that's probably like my least favorite Harry Potter book, but I do still love it. But in comparison to the rest, I I don't know, this book makes me very, very angry. Probably because the tone of the book is so angry. The next book is one that makes me feel nostalgic, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. And I actually just read this book, so why does it make me feel nostalgic if I didn't actually read it as a child? Well, I was familiar with the story. I was an avid watcher of Road to Avonlea when I was very early in grade school. They used to show it, the repeats on the Disney Channel. And I had read like snippets and parts of the book, like abridged for kids version, even though this is a kid's book. But really reading it, it just made me so nostalgic for my own childhood, just like how timeless this book is, and the things that like Anne says and does, and her imagination, and especially like her friendship with Diana Barry reminded me a lot of my best friend growing up, who I am no longer friends with, and we haven't seen each other in about 10 years now. But some of those close like friendship feelings that young girls have it's like, oh my god, that was me when I was a kid. I just made me nostalgic for my own childhood, and I cried several times, not at the sad parts in the book, but just, yeah, the nostalgia that it brought up within me. Sappy, I know. Okay, the next one was really tough. It's a book that makes you scared, and I'm not into scary stuff. I don't really watch scary movies or read scary books, so I went for something that was kind of close, and that is Insurgent by Veronica Roth, just because I remember reading this, not being actually scared, just kind of nervous and physically on edge, or I could feel like the adrenaline coursing through me as I was reading through the climax at the end of the book. So that's about the closest I can get. Probably, if I thought a little bit harder, put some more time into it, I could maybe think of something else, but right now we're going to go with this. Next book is a book that makes you feel surprised, and I had two different interpretations of this. One is like something happens in the book that actually surprises you that you don't think is going to happen, or the other one is a book that is surprisingly good, like it was better than you thought it would be. And I went with one that was kind of a mix of the two in the end, and that is Unearthly by Cynthia Han, because it both surprised me in being a lot better than I thought, not the typical cliched, trite, paranormal romance, but actually averted a lot of the usual cliches and tropes in that genre, and by doing so it also did surprising things, so I thought this fit the bill quite well. The next emotion is disappointed, and I have a lot of these, but I feel like I get disappointed quite a bit. I'm just a negative person. But the one that I saw first on the shelf as I was looking for a choice was Graceling by Kristin Cashore. It was a huge disappointment to me last year. I don't know what's wrong with me that I did not like this book at all. It seemed like everything about it was good. Reading the concept and the characters and all that, like the synopsis and everything, I thought it was going to be just amazing and blow me away, and I read it and I was just bored to death. So this was extremely disappointing. The next, I'm almost to the end here, next emotion is distressed, and this was a really tough one too, but I ended up choosing Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. Really, the whole concept of the Hunger Games is quite distressing if you think about it. But in this one, it was just, this is also my least favorite of the series, by the way. It's just like all of the crap that was happening to Katniss, and I'm like, is there ever going to be anything like good going on? And I don't know, the whole series was quite distressing, but because also I didn't like this one quite as much, it didn't really live up to my expectations, my hopes, so it was even more distressing because of that, if that makes sense. And the last emotion is confused, a book that made me feel confused, and I picked Incarceron by Catherine Fisher. And really, this is a duology. The sequel is Safik. Really, this emotion applies to both titles. This is a well-written duology and a really, really interesting concept and world building and everything, but it's not fully explained, especially in the beginning. The reader is just thrown into a situation, and like I had no idea what was going on, and stuff is kind of after the fact. It's pieced together somewhat, but still there are a lot of questions raised in this book that were not answered, that I thought were going to be answered in the sequel, which weren't, and the author seemed to have this view and express through characters that like some of these things don't matter, but guess what? I think they do matter, and I'm just nearly as confused at the end of this duology as I was at the beginning. So this was highly confusing. And that is all my emotions, and right now I'm feeling extremely relieved that I was able to come up with hopefully some decent answers for this tag. I tag anybody else who watches this and feels like they want to do it, and obviously if they haven't done it already. I will see you guys in my next video.